Mary and I'm back with another scrapbooking layout process video. As you saw in the beginning, I showed you some inspiration for some melted crayon art because for our September Inspired by Art challenge at SpiegelMom Scraps, I decided that I was going to be inspired by kid art since I'm doing a back to school photo for my son. So what you see me doing here is taking a piece of vinyl that I cut from my silhouette. I just went to Google and I looked for black and white apple silhouette free cut file and found one that I liked. Then I just popped it into my program and made it into a cut file. Now I have scrap vinyl at home. You might not. So what you can do is if you want vinyl, you can just go to the Dollar Tree and get some shelf liner. Shelf liner you can cut on the silhouette, and you can just get paper and cut it out and put some tacky temporary tack glue on the back of your paper and put it down. You want something though that's going to have a really good seal to it. And what you also saw me do earlier was take off a little bit of the tack because the vinyl that I have is pretty tacky. It sticks down to wood. And it will peel off. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to peel off the paper. And I end up running into a little bit of a problem with that, but it's fine. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking some gesso and I'm going to seal the edges and also seal the paper because I didn't want my SHIMMERZ mist that you saw me testing a little bit before to figure out what colors I wanted to use. I didn't want the SHIMMERZ mist to seep underneath, and I also wanted it to drip and have a nice flow to it. Otherwise it would just seep into the paper. So I have you on super speed here because this process did take me a little bit of time and it all is kind of monotony. But to get the look of melted crayon wax, I just put it at the edge of where the cut file was, the vinyl was for the apple, and I sprayed some mist into a little ephemera packaging tray. I keep these trays because I do a lot of mixed media and they're really, really handy. You can just toss them when I'm done. And I'm adding color on top of it. Now it looks like a giant mess right now. I totally get that. But in the end, this turned out so fun. And it definitely might not look like melted crayon art, but it doesn't have to look like the art that you're doing. If you're inspired by it and it puts you in a whole new creative avenue, then let you be you and let the artist that you're inspired by be the artist you're inspired by. But it gets your creative juices flowing and you come up with new and interesting ways of doing things. So definitely inspired by melted crayon art, but it doesn't necessarily look like melted crayon art. So the SHIMMERZ mist that I'm using is the yellow is no Yolking. It's a COLORINGZ, and so it has no shimmer to it. The greens that I used, I first did Hermit the frog, and that's a really lighter green, especially when you mix it with the no Yolking. That's a VIBEZ, so it has a little bit of a shimmer to it. And then Well Blew Me Down, which is more of a teal blue color. And when I mixed it with the Hermit the frog, it gave you this really nice crisp apple green color. The picture that I'm also scrapbooking has Isaac in his Seahawks jersey. So I didn't want to clash with the colors that were in his first day of school outfit. And I didn't want it to be a Seahawks themed thing because this is a back to school thing. But I loved how the green definitely brought out the green in the lime green Seahawks colors from his jersey. So you'll see that in just a minute. I just went through and I put some splatters down with more of a mix between Hermit the Frog and Well Blew Me Down. And I did some splatters. I love how the splatters kind of went into that negative space where the apple is. And I'm making sure that I just have enough color in the spots and play around until I'm happy. So now I'm going to be backing this all with a piece of paper, and you're going to see me go through kind of the process of picking out that paper. So this was my first pick. This is a Studio Calico paper from, it's called, let's see, The Hills. And it was from 2016. It was a Sound of Music's inspired paper, and I really loved the brush script on it, but it was black and white. And then I picked a couple of other blue papers, thinking, well, I'll pull more of the Seahawks colors in, and I went back to this black and white because it just really made the whole thing pop, and it really gave it kind of that pop art feel. And the other ones were more of like a denim feel, so I just felt like the vibe was a little bit different. So I'm going to cut this down a little bit. I'm going to measure out, just visually measure out how much I want to cut off of each side, because I don't want to cut too much of the really cool look that you get at the edges where the drips happened. But I also, like, when it got to the edge, when the drips got to the edge, it kind of went up along the edge. It didn't fall off of the paper. So I wanted to get rid of that because I really wanted it to look like it was flowing right off the edge. Then I glued everything down and I sewed it off camera to give it another little border. I felt like that just grounded everything. And now I'm going to start picking papers for backing my photo. And I really loved the blue from the Maggie Holmes Gather collection. So I grabbed that out, and I wanted a neutral that wasn't a black and white, just to soften it a little bit. So I grabbed the wood grain and this blue and white gingham, and I thought that was just the perfect pop of color against the green. So then I pulled this piece of paper that kind of that has all of the letters of the alphabet on it, and I was going to make a title out of that, but I decided that the words were just too big, or the letters were too big, and it would have made for a huge title, and I want the apple to be the center of attention. So I do end up incorporating one of the letters, and you'll see that in a few minutes. But first, you're going to watch me layer up my photo. So the trick with this was I wanted to have a smaller photo, but I was too lazy to print off of my Pixma, or not my Pixma, my big widespread printer. It's like a wide format printer, and so I just did it on my selfie, and I didn't want it to be so small, like a 3x4, but I didn't want it to be a 4x6. I wanted it to be like 3.5. I wanted to be somewhere in between. I don't know, but it ended up turning out just great. But the problem was trying to get a lot of layers behind the picture without taking away from the apple, because the apple is the star of the show. So you kind of see up at the top where I laid out stud, and it had red, it had yellow. I didn't want to bring in some red, but I was trying to anyway, just because I wanted to use those words. You'll see that I take it all off and I go in a different direction. But I'm just going to layer out everything up. I ran out of my ATG adhesive again, or I don't know what's going on with my stupid ATG gun, but it's almost out of tape, and so I just need to replace the tape. And then I'm taking these super teeny tiny strips of score tape to put it down because I couldn't find my whiter one that I had just a few minutes ago. So this is how I end up using the Maggie Holmes letters from her paper, the paper pad. And it was perfect because A+. I mean, it's back to school layout, so that worked out just great. And I used this little yellowy green plus sign. This is a sticker, an alphabet set from a Hip Kit Club exclusive, and that blue was the perfect color. It matched perfectly with the A and the buffalo check gingham plaid, whatever you want to call it, blue and white plaid from the Gather collection. So I wrote down back to school because that's simple and sweet and absolutely appropriate. And I really liked how the title kind of went around the apple. Once again, to, you know, have your eye drawn to that background. So I'm thinking, I love it. I love everything about this, but what feels off to me, and I've played around a few times trying to get the white leaves to pop a little bit more. So what felt off to me was that the white ran into the yellow, and I didn't want more green up there. So what I thought about doing was, hey, I've already got this really cool scripty font underneath here. Sure, I taped it down, but it's just ATG tape and it's easy to pull up. So why don't I go ahead and just cut through and not all the way through the papers because it's 2 pieces of cardstock, right? So I'm just cutting through the top layer of cardstock, and then I'm going to pop these leaves up a little bit and kind of move them in a way to where when you look at the layout, you're going to see that black and white script font just peeking out underneath. And I thought that that was like the piece of resistance. It was perfect. Okay, so what did I do next? I'm trying to remember. Oh, right, a thread nest. So I just wanted to add a little bit extra texture because I've already got the stitching around the outside, and so I wanted to have some more interest and also some more of that navy blue color. I didn't want there to be so much of a gap between the picture and the title, the back to school. I wanted there to be an apple and definitely have that white space, but I wanted to embellish a little bit and just have some fun. So I'm going through some LE Studio just cut aparts or label die cuts that come in just the basic kit for their monthly kit, and pulling out some pieces. I grabbed this little green label and I stamped on it with my big Pebbles letter rotary stamp, which is really awesome if you guys have ever seen one before. Oh, Andrea Gray, Retro Hit Mama, she has one in her new intro video. Anyway, they're so fun. You can make any word that you want. There's just a ton of space for large titles, and I stamped down on there grade 3. And then I'm taking these Hip Kit Club exclusive puff or epoxy stickers and adding them around my layout. I really loved the fact that the colors on the epoxy stickers were perfect for the colors that I used for this layout. So I'm going to play around a little bit, and you guys know me, I'm going to put a bunch of tiny little things down and I'll move them 2 centimeters until they're right. So that's what I'm doing now. So you can watch it for a second and I'll just talk to you. How are you guys doing? Leave a comment down below and let me know how your week is going. I mean, I really do want to know because, you know, I love you guys. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. Just putting a bunch of random ephemera down. And then I realized I need a journaling spot. So I grabbed this round journaling tag or ephemera piece from the Amy Tangerine On a Whim line, and it was just a little bit too big, so then I ended up having to move the A+ up a little bit, and I had glued everything down because, again, my HEG ran out, and so it was just a giant mess, and then you can barely even see the thread nest underneath. So I ended up fixing that. But I just wrote down on my journaling, you were so pumped to be back at school. Then I wrote down his teacher's name and the classroom that he's in this year. This year is his first school that he's been in for 2 consecutive years, because in our small town, we have 1 kindergarten school. So it's for all of the kindergartners. We have a very high population of children under the age of 18. It's 60%. 60% of our kids are under the age of 8, or of our population are underneath the age of 18. So we have a lot of kids in our small town, and they put them all in 1 kindergarten school. And then he went to the 1st grade where his district is, or how they do the borders. And then in 2nd grade, we moved the summer before his 2nd grade. So we moved out even farther into the country. And so he now goes at the country elementary school. And so he's been there for 2 years. So this was really fun to be like, yeah, I own this place. That's totally how he felt on the first day of school. It was the first time that we went to school, and he wasn't like, oh, I'm going to have to meet new people and all of that. So super, super fun. So now I'm going to be doing the thread nests. You saw me put down the sequins, and I used the seashell sequins mix. I love the colors because they are totally Seahawks colors. And I told Jody I'm going to have to do a Seahawks layout for sure with those. So now I'm just checking to see if it looks okay, if there's anything else I should add, and I just really like how it is. The only thing that I added was a little bit of stitching on the left side underneath Back to School on top of the white part of the apple, which you can see right now, and I thought that just completed the layout. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you have been trying any of these challenges that are inspired by art. I want to know what you're doing. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye.